Hello and welcome to Fad or Future, episode 18.
18 Legal to Vote episode.
Yes, it's unbelievable that we've done 18 of these. I really can't believe it.
I know, and we're back here with our masks on.
Yes, fun times. It's,
yes.
The ebbs and flows of this.
You know, a pandemic is not a pandemic without more than one wave. I don't know where that's my thing. I just said that, okay?
I like it. You know, we're ocean folk here in Tampa Bay, and so, yes. You know, multiple waves.
That's right. That's right. So, trying to be healthy, but we can safely lose these for ourselves.
Yes.
We're in safe quarters, and we're both protected. Yes. So, let's move in today's episode. We got three great topics. We're going to start off with a new announcement from Microsoft Windows 365. So, we'll get into what that is. So, stay tuned for that. Then we're going to talk about our favorite company, Apple. Now, I know everybody knows that we're a Microsoft shop, but we do, you know, Apple is important.
I respect Apple.
I respect Apple too, and you have to have at least one competitor, right?
Oh.
So we're going to talk about something Apple's doing in the marketplace that's a little bit controversial.
Yeah.
And then we're going to wrap it up today talking about the Olympics. So I'll leave it right there.
Spring Olympics.
Our fun topic for the closing today.
USA #1.
Yay, yay. Go gold. Yes. All right, so let's get started with our first topic.
Yes, Windows 365 and cloud PCs. That was the big news this week. So
not this week, but I mean, it was a few weeks ago.
This week-ish. It's all a blur.
It's in it was last month when it came out.
Yes.
But I just have to interject. Windows 365 is a product name, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Not to be confused with Microsoft 365, Office 365, Azure Windows. Yeah, basically.
It's a thing. Microsoft's marketing department still needs to come to terms with the fact that you should not come up with product names that include the names of other products. It certainly would help those of us that try to explain it to customers.
Yeah.
Hint, hint.
I mean, you should also not call Teams and then have Teams within your Teams app, but that's neither here nor there. So, so that all being said, Windows 365.
What is Windows 365?
This has really just kind of been, you know, it's been rumored in the mix for a while. They finally have announced it and put some kind of price points and some specifics to it. But Windows 365 is essentially a full-blown virtual machine, a virtual computer in your browser. For a set monthly fee starting as low as $20 a month, you can get a certain performance spec virtual computer that you launch a browser and you have your full machine. You have your software, your business line of business applications, everything's hooked to Azure, where it might be running SQL or your other line of business applications. You can browse your email. You do all your things in a browser, and then when you're done for the day, you just close the browser session.
Right. And there's several big wins here. I mean, this flexibility of being browser-based moves you to that kind of, you know, device-agnostic approach. It doesn't matter whether you're on your iPad or your PC or your MacBook. Mm-hmm. Your Windows desktop is running from the browser in the cloud, and that's an easy experience.
I mean, yeah, basically, if you can, and it comes back down to this: if you have a browser, which I mean, almost anything can have. If you have the browser, you have your full-blown Windows PC. It becomes then just a matter of logistics with real estate and having a keyboard and mouse. I mean, they actually just showed that you can run the Edge browser with a keyboard and mouse on Xbox Series X. So, wow. I mean, technically, there's a world where you could be running your workstation off of your Xbox. I mean,
that's crazy. Yeah. So, and that's it too. It doesn't depend on the hardware of the device you're using, since the actual performance and power is coming from the Azure cloud. Mm-hmm. So that gives you less worry about how old your computer is, or, you know, do I have the latest device that I'm using? Is it going to meet my performance needs? Because you can just hit the slider in the cloud and kick on some more memory or kick on some more processor.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you could instantly, you're working on a big project and you kick up the slider, mm-hmm. and suddenly you've got twice as much specs as opposed to having to go buy or repurpose a new computer. I mean, that combined with the fact that also it takes less, it's more flexible. I mean, that's one of the other things that we don't appreciate in this, is that we've been saying that for years, is that a remote desktop session is always going to be lighter weight at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Over internet, than any other form. If your line of business application is trying to talk and send data back and forth, heaven forbid. I mean, you running QuickBooks, you are sending a ton of data over the internet.
Right.
It's going to mean you have to have a pretty secure internet connection, pretty stable internet connection in order to do those sorts of things.
So you said the word secure just now. I want to spin that from the internet side of it to this Windows 365 product. I mean, how do we feel about that? Is this going to be as secure as my desktop in the office or my desktop that I'm traveling with, or my laptop that I'm traveling with?
Well, I mean, this is always that push-pull convenience versus security, right? And I think that's where both of us are a little hesitant on this. It's not been a new idea. This idea of decentralizing centralizing your location of your data, that's always been the question. You're kind of, okay, it's good that you can access it. It keeps everything centralized in one more secure location, but you're opening up the methods of access.
Yeah.
Your workstation sitting on your computer, sitting on your desk in the office, sitting securely behind a firewall that is tightly controlled. Unless someone's walking into your office, it's really hard for them to get into that.
Right.
But if your computer is now in the cloud, you have to rely on so many more variables being secure.
Yeah, I think that's a concern. And we've been doing remote desktop services in the cloud for years for our clients. And definitely, security is one of those things, whether we're using like an Azure VPN or some other method to, multi-factor authentication will certainly be a part of this. But I think there's still some questions on the security side. So do you feel like this is fad or future in terms of the future corporate PC? I mean, fad or future, corporate PC dying?
Honestly, the funny thing about this, in my mind, is the pandemic. I think this 2-year push and pull, this sudden flood of people concurrently needing to go remotely, maybe working off of their home PCs and whatnot, then combined with the chip shortages and just how hard it is to get a workstation.
Yeah.
I think all of this really forced an unprecedented ramp up of these technologies, and where maybe a lot of companies brushed it off, they're seriously looking at, okay, where does this fit logistically? How do we secure these things? And that's why I think it's future. I think if this is not the push that kind of makes this an everyday thing, then I'm not really sure what else kind of would be enough of a galvanization to get to that.
Okay, all right, so you're going future with it. I'm actually going to disagree and go fad, and that's really because I'm still a believer in the device agnostic world. Now, this does take us a little bit in that direction, but it's my belief that ultimately Windows is going to die. We don't need the operating system. Yep, hear it here first. We don't need the desktop operating system, and it's a security vulnerability in itself. Even with my desktop in the cloud, and I'm using the internet on that desktop, I can still bring ransomware and viruses into that cloud environment and deal with the same problem. So at the end of the day, I'm going to say it's a fad, but this is a step towards what the longer term picture is of a device agnostic world where we have secure web applications.
Okay. You're saying the fact that the VM's running that Windows is really what's making this whole push a fad.
Yeah, this it's valuable, it's going to be useful, but it's not the future.
Okay.
All right. Topic number 2.
We shall see. All right. Topic number 2. Oh boy.
Yeah, how we're going to fit this one in the time frame is going to be interesting. We might get some comments or posts back on this one, but let's see what we get.
So I guess just to really start, first preface is that this has been a conversation that has a lot of different topics that are very minutely detailed, and there's a whole lot of precision to these conversations. So definitely, by all means, if you're interested in this, you want to understand more, please go out. There are authorities out there. There are people that are studying this. There are people that research this on a daily basis. These are the things, these are the conversations about security, about encryption, about protecting those vulnerable in our society. Definitely go out and learn more. That all being said.
Good PSA.
Good PSA. Just it's such a loaded
Apple. What did Apple do? This is our fad or future.
Okay, so what Apple basically did is they kind of, with the simplicity of saying, here's how to unlock your phone in a new method, announced a slew of basically help desk resources on their website about some new security features that have pretty much surrounded around child protection and child vulnerabilities within their iMessaging platform, but most specifically with images that are being stored on the phone and then uploaded into iCloud. Right. And the biggest thing was that Apple has announced that they now have a database that resides on your iPhone that has basically a hash, a shorthand of a database of questionable photos that are the organization is called NCMEC. National Institute for
Missing and Exploited Children.
And so they basically have a database of these shorthands of photos of child abuse. And so what Apple is doing is that database is on every iPhone, and if your phone is connected to iCloud, it'll actually compare every photo uploaded to this database in this shorthand way. And if there's enough red flags, it'll actually raise the notice for an Apple employee to take a look at the situation. And if that's a valid concern, if those are compared correctly, then it'll actually report it to the authorities and report it to this institute. And so that's, huge in so many different ways.
I'm gonna just kind of paraphrase, make sure I understand what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So what you're saying, first off, if I have an iPhone, I automatically have an iCloud account.
Yes.
And if by no other action I do nothing else but say just follow the prompts, odds are my photos are being backed up to my iCloud because that's part of what happens, right? Yeah. So out of the box, your standard person is already doing all this where they've got their pictures on their phone and their pictures are going to iCloud. So now what you're saying is that Apple is going to look at every single picture I take, and if that picture potentially matches based on recognition capability of artificial intelligence that Apple's created, right, it will let somebody know that I might have a picture of a missing child or an exploited child or potentially something like that in the effort of this greater good for society.
Right.
Is that right then? That sounds good?
Yeah.
Okay, so our fad or future question is corporations as law enforcement. Fad or future?
Well, and this is the core thing.
There's a lot of weeds here.
Is that they are reporting it. That means that something that is on your phone could then be assessed and reported to the authorities. That's just a big question, and that's a big responsibility for Apple to take. They are literally policing. Now, they'll be very strenuous in saying that they're not scanning every file on your phone. They're only scanning photos that are being uploaded to the database, and they're only in relation to this one database where everyone can agree that child abuse is bad. But they are then taking that, they're assessing the situation and reporting to authorities if there's a concern. And that's a whole lot of responsibility. If they get it right, if they report, how does that handle? And where does that end? Where does the door of policing data?
I'm going to tell you, there's too many weeds to get into, and we're not going to be able to fit this into this time frame. So hopefully we get some poster comments, and we can be happy to do a part 2 on this or answer your questions. But
yeah.
Are you following fad or future? Is this the responsibility? Do corporations need to say, you know what, we have a social conscience to do something right with the technology we're providing?
Well, and see, this is, I think really in my mind is that this is future. This is going to be, they have opened the door and they're not backing down. They seem to be reinforcing in just trying to communicate now what their idea is. But I think the door has been opened for this sort of thing. And this is a conversation we've had before. Government involvement inside of these technology companies. And sometimes there's a responsibility they feel, moral obligations, if you will. And I feel like it's officially, that moral obligation of these technology companies has kind of crossed that line into policing, into actual authorities.
Well, I would agree with you in future potentially, just because of the fact that I think, government cannot keep up with technology. So if corporations don't do the right thing with the technology they're creating, it takes too long for government and by proxy law enforcement to keep up with it. So I could see certainly making a future argument. But I'm going to say fad. And I believe fad because I've always disagreed with the whole corporations are people. And I feel like this is kind of extending that to say that, corporations can also report, on you, right? And now we're just increasing more of that kind of monitoring of everything by corporations. And the whole mega corporation, how big is too big, all that comes into play. And I think that's got to be addressed at some point. And this is one more step in that direction that somewhere this has to be reconciled.
I definitely hope it gets reconciled. I'm fully on board because that's an interesting progression.
Yep. All right. Last topic, topic 3, technology in the Olympics. Now we're not talking about.
A little bit lighter.
A little bit lighter. We're going to shift gears. We might have been jerked in the seatbelt. We shifted gears too fast. But, there's a lot of technology in sports and athletes. But we really are just talking about watching the Olympics this year. Did it feel harder to you to actually watch the Olympics this year?
Oh, it was amazing. It was epic. They actually filmed almost all of the Olympics in 8K, stunning 8K resolution. Man, you can see the beads of sweat off of these athletes' face. No, I'm kidding. I actually didn't get to watch hardly anything, and that's because of technology at the Olympics, pretty much.
How about that?
So for those of you that might not be aware, NBC. Wonderful NBC is they are the rights holder for broadcasting the Summer Olympics, and they were again this year. And it was supposed to be their crowning achievement. They were going to have the cameras getting incredible resolution. They had their new streaming platform, Peacock. You didn't even have to pay. You could sign up and you could watch the Olympics. That was the promotion. That was the dream.
Yeah.
Really, and then if
they
you
were
wanted
using
to
it as basically a subscriber catch.
Right. Get people interested, see what other content they had, maybe pay for the service if you really want to watch some special things. Did not pan out that way. Famously, the opening ceremony. The opening ceremony was not allowed visible on Peacock on the day of. You had to wait over 24 hours to watch the opening ceremony.
Wow.
Which is, if you will, that is the moment of the world coming together and watching something live. I mean, that's the epitome of a live event.
How many events, short of maybe New Year's Eve, but even then New Year's Eve gets staggered over all the time zone. Right. How many events are actually world events like the Olympics?
Right. I mean, we're talking not many.
No, not many.
Not many at all.
Maybe the World Cup. I mean, the World Cup certainly had more viewers than the Olympics, I'd argue.
Yeah. So it was incredibly just a missed opportunity in many ways, shape, and form. There were events that were paywalled. If they were deemed worthy enough, like men's basketball, you had to have a pay subscription in order to watch it. You couldn't watch it on any of the other apps. There was an inconsistency of what you could, what you couldn't, scheduling, all of that. And it's interesting, and that's where our fatter future is kind of coming from, isn't it? It's this gaffe of being able to use technology for these live events. They keep seeming to running into a brick wall.
Or using technology to exploit, these events, right? Yeah. And certainly, I think that's my concern here is, fatter future, technology in the global sports arena, really just restricting that popularity of sports,
Right, and that's where, I mean, if we're going into the fatter future of it, and then that's where I have to say, I know I'm 3 for 3 here, but painting a rosy picture of everything. But future, I mean, really, it's just...
Oh, no, future.
The technology, they have figured out just a way to keep the money flowing and keep the uniqueness of it. Well, if you want to watch this, if you want to be partaking in this, you need to pay us money to do so. And
I hope there's a big executive at NBC who gets fired over this, because when they look at the numbers, they should be severely disappointed. And it was not good. I mean, it was not good to be choked out of what should have been a moment to celebrate. Our country obviously did very well, as we like to do at the Olympics. But did we really get to appreciate those athletes? How many names did you get to recognize this year?
Yeah.
Nobody but the few really popular ones. And that's a disappointment, because we had a lot of great athletes there. And NBC took advantage of it. They tried to grab, demographic data, personal information by saying you had to sign up for something, even if you didn't have to pay, and then make you pay for things that were popular. It's sad. It's a sad statement for NBC. I'm going to give them a big thumbs down. And I'm going to say fad, because I think the people will revolt on this. The numbers will speak for themselves, and change will come. ABC will get the Olympics next time, I think. They'll do a better job.
I hope so, because, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm a Peacock subscriber. I pay the money.
You paid the money.
I still couldn't do the thing.
Yeah. I tried to watch the table tennis on YouTube, and all I could get were like 2-minute clips or 1-minute clips, and I'm seeing 2 back and forths, and that's it. It was very disappointing.
I hope they revolt, because the Olympics, above all things, I mean, we could have used it. We could have used a unifying world moment after everything we've been through for the past year and a half. But
so, very interesting fall down today. 3 future for Justin, 3 fad for me. That's our wrap up. A good episode 18. Please make sure you like and subscribe to our video. Post your comments below. We'll answer every one of your comments. And thank you for watching. Until next time.
And register to vote. Number 18.
18.
So, bye.